Anya Petrova adjusted her helmet, the faint hum of the exploration vessel vibrating against her skull. She felt the familiar thrum of anticipation, a mixture of excitement and apprehension that always accompanied her expeditions to the unknown. Her team, a motley crew of seasoned astronauts and eager young scientists, huddled around her, their faces illuminated by the flickering blue light of the control panel. "Incoming transmission," announced Liam, the comms officer, his voice tight with barely suppressed excitement. "Unidentified signal. Origin unknown. It seems to be language." Anya's heart pounded. This was it. After years of relentless searching, a sign of intelligent life beyond Earth. They had been scanning the vast expanses of the Andromeda Galaxy for months, driven by the insatiable human curiosity to find others, to know they weren't alone in the universe. Now, their quest seemed to be bearing fruit. "Show me the signal, Liam." Anya's voice was steady, though her pulse quickened. Liam projected a holographic image onto the control panel, a series of rhythmic pulses, each distinct and complex, unlike anything they had encountered before. The signal, though faint, was undeniably intelligent. "It's beautiful," whispered Maya, the astrophysicist, her eyes wide with awe. Anya nodded, her gaze fixed on the pulsing light. "It's definitely not natural. This is deliberate communication." But something felt off. The signal wasn't just a message, it felt more like a whisper, almost hesitant. It carried an underlying sense of vulnerability, a touch of fear. "Captain, I'm picking up a faint energy signature," reported James, the chief engineer, his voice laced with concern. "It seems to be organic. A living creature." Anya's heart sank. The signal wasn't a beacon of invitation, but a desperate plea. It spoke of fear, of vulnerability, of an unknown entity on the edge of survival. "Prepare the landing craft," Anya ordered, her voice firm despite the growing unease in her stomach. "It's time for a closer look." The landing craft descended through a swirling cloud of purple mist, illuminating a landscape unlike anything Anya had ever seen. A world of bioluminescent flora, strange fungi emitting an otherworldly glow, and towering, cave-like structures that seemed to pulse with an internal light. As they touched down, a wave of panic washed over Anya. They were not alone. From the shadowed recesses of the cave, a shimmering, almost translucent figure emerged, its form vaguely resembling an insect, but impossibly slender and delicate. Its eyes, two glowing orbs of luminescent green, met Anya's gaze, radiating a mixture of fear and cautious curiosity. The creature tilted its head, and the faint signal they had detected pulsed through the air, intensifying slightly in their presence. It was a greeting, a tentative invitation. It was then that Anya understood. This wasn't just an alien species, it was a species on the brink of survival, a species that had been hiding, waiting for the day they might find a friend, not a foe. The fear, the vulnerability, the hesitation that permeated the creature's signal, it was all clear now. They weren't just searching for others, they were searching for a lifeline. And Anya knew, with a deep certainty that resonated through her very being, that she had found one too. The air inside the research facility buzzed with a nervous energy. Anya Petrova, her face flushed with excitement, stood before a group of scientists, her gaze fixed on the holographic projection of a strange, luminescent creature. "This," she declared, gesturing towards the image, "is a Drex." The Drex, a creature resembling a large, iridescent beetle with luminous, multifaceted eyes, pulsed with an inner light that seemed to ripple through its transparent carapace. Its antennae twitched, and a low, melodic hum vibrated through the room. "They are peaceful," Anya continued, her voice laced with conviction. "They have no intent for violence. Their communication is based on energy patterns, a language of light and sound that we are only beginning to comprehend." A ripple of skepticism ran through the room. General John Jack Williams, a weathered veteran with a lifetime of experience in combat, stepped forward, his gaze grim. "Peaceful or not, their abilities are still unknown. They could be a threat." "They are more than a threat," Anya countered, her voice rising with emotion. "They are an opportunity a chance to understand a species that exists beyond our wildest imagination. A species that might hold the key to solving some of humanity's greatest challenges. And what if they prove to be a danger? Jack challenged. Is it worth the risk? Anya's gaze softened, her determination undeterred. We cannot simply ignore the potential of the Drex. We have a responsibility to learn from them, to understand them before we can judge them. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of research and observation. The Drex, housed in a custom-built enclosure, proved to be a fascinating study. They communicated through a complex system of light and sound, their antennae pulsing in rhythmic patterns that seemed to resonate with an unseen energy field. Anya, working tirelessly with a team of specialists, discovered that the Drex possessed an extraordinary ability to sense and manipulate energy fields. Their antennae, pulsing with an internal light, could detect and influence the flow of electricity, magnetism, and even gravity. One evening, while observing the Drex, Anya noticed a peculiar anomaly. A strange, fluctuating energy pattern emanated from the creature's antennae, a pattern that resembled a distress signal. Anya, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and curiosity, immediately alerted the team. "They're trying to tell us something," she announced, her voice trembling slightly. "But we don't understand what." Jack, his skepticism gradually fading, approached the enclosure, his eyes focused on the Drex. He extended a hand, palm open, towards the creature. The Drex slowly lifted its head, its luminous eyes meeting Jack's gaze. The low, melodic hum intensified, and a faint pulse of energy resonated from its antennae. "It's not a threat," Jack stated, a hint of awe in his voice. "It's a call for help." Anya, her face alight with hope, knew that this was just the beginning. The Drex, despite their initial timidity, had begun to communicate, to reach out to humanity, and with every step they took towards understanding, a new world of possibilities opened up, a world where two vastly different species could learn to coexist and even collaborate. The whisper of the unknown, once a source of fear, had begun to transform into a symphony of hope. The air crackled with a tension as thick as the humid jungle air. Anya Petrova stood before a crowd of skeptical military officers, her heart hammering against her ribs. Her presentation, detailing the Drex's capabilities and potential, was met with a wall of furrowed brows and folded arms. Dr. Petrova, General Williams, a man whose gruff exterior masked a sharp intellect, began, his voice laced with skepticism. "You truly believe these creatures can be of any value to the military?" Anya, despite the biting tone, remained steadfast. "General, their ability to manipulate energy fields is unparalleled. They can disrupt enemy communication, shield our troops, even neutralize incoming missiles." She gestured towards the holographic projections showcasing the Drex's abilities, a stark contrast to the dusty, sterile environment of the briefing room. "Impressive displays," General Williams conceded, his gaze still dubious. "But what about their resilience? How will they fare in actual combat?" Anya glanced towards Krell, the Drex warrior who had accompanied her. He stood motionless, his antennae twitching nervously, his large, multifaceted eyes reflecting an uncharacteristic anxiety. It was a far cry from the determined warrior she'd witnessed during the Drex's demonstration. "General, I understand your concerns, but Krell here volunteered to undergo combat training. He's a quick learner and already displaying impressive skills." Anya gave Krell a reassuring nod, hoping her words would bolster his confidence. Krell hesitated, then straightened his chitinous exoskeleton, meeting the general's gaze. "I wish to serve," he spoke in a voice that was a low, melodious rasp, "to prove worth to your kind." General Williams's gaze softened slightly. "Very well, Krell. We will put your skills to the test." He addressed the remaining officers. "We will place Krell under the supervision of our finest instructors. If he proves his capability, he will be integrated into our training regimen." Anya felt a surge of hope, a glimmer of progress. But the general's final words cast a shadow over her optimism. "However, let this be a clear reminder, the Drex are still guests on our planet. Their loyalty will be tested, and their future will be determined by their actions. The meeting concluded with a tense atmosphere, leaving Anya with a bittersweet victory. The Dreks were given a chance to prove themselves, but the threat of rejection loomed heavy. As she escorted Krell out of the briefing room, a wave of guilt washed over her. She'd promised him a better future, but the path ahead remained fraught with uncertainty. "Do not worry, Anya," Krell said softly, his antennae swaying gently. "I will show my worth. I will protect your kind." Anya smiled faintly. "I believe you will, Krell. But for now, focus on your training. You may surprise everyone." As they walked through the bustling corridors, Anya noticed a young soldier staring at them, his eyes wide with curiosity and a flicker of fear. The soldier quickly averted his gaze, but Anya felt a pang of sadness. It was a reminder of the prejudice they were battling, both overt and subtle. The road to acceptance was long and arduous, but she wouldn't give up. They reached the training ground, a vast expanse of simulated battlefields with advanced holographic technology. Krell stood at the edge, his antennae twitching, his large eyes taking in the unfamiliar landscape. Anya placed a hand on his chitinous shoulder. "You will do well, Krell. I'll be watching." She watched as Krell walked towards the training field, his movements hesitant but resolute. As he entered the simulated environment, the holographic landscape shifted a desert wasteland, the air shimmering with heat. Then, a rush of energy. The ground trembled as a virtual enemy, a hulking, metallic monstrosity, materialized before Krell. The creature roared, its weaponry blazing with light, the virtual battlefield turning into a storm of light and sound. Anya watched, her breath catching in her throat. She knew the test would be challenging, but she hadn't expected this. Krell stood his ground. His antennae flared, sensing the energy around him. Then, a surge of crimson light. Anya watched, her heart pounding, as Krell, with a surge of power, manipulated the energy field around him, creating a shield that absorbed the enemy's attack. The virtual creature faltered, its attack faltering. Krell, no longer a hesitant warrior, held his ground, his movements now precise, his movements smooth and fluid, a symphony of controlled energy. Anya smiled, a wave of relief washing over her. Maybe she was right after all. Maybe their partnership was more than just possible, it was inevitable. The air thrummed with a low, almost inaudible hum, a vibration that seemed to emanate from the very core of the Drex research facility. Anya Petrova, her brow furrowed in concentration, stared intently at the array of monitors flickering with data. Beside her, Tora, the Drex engineer, her multifaceted eyes glowing with an ethereal light, manipulated a series of intricate controls. "It's fluctuating," Tora said, her voice a soft hum that seemed to resonate with the facility's ambient energy. "Their field is unstable. The energy is too chaotic." Anya nodded, her fingers tapping nervously against the console. "We need to find a way to stabilize it. It's the key to understanding their abilities." For weeks, they've been studying the Drex's unique ability to manipulate energy fields. The Drex, naturally attuned to these fields, could sense and control them with an accuracy that bordered on the supernatural. While the potential for their technology was vast, the Drex themselves struggled to harness their abilities consistently, their bodies often feeling overwhelmed by the intense energy flux. "We've been over the data," Anya said, frustration edging into her voice. "Nothing seems to work." Tora's multifaceted eyes flickered to Anya's, a gentle touch of concern in their luminous glow. "Perhaps we are not approaching this correctly. The Drex, their connection to the field is instinctive. We are trying to analyze it, to dissect it. But it is a part of them, as ingrained as breathing." Anya paused, considering Tora's words. She realized the Drex weren't simply machines, cogs in a scientific equation. They were sentient beings, their abilities linked to their very essence. Perhaps their approach needed to shift from pure analysis to a more empathetic understanding. A sudden tremor in the facility shook them both. Alarm bells blared, and the monitors flickered wildly. Tora's multifaceted eyes widened in alarm. "The field, it's destabilizing," Too much energy. Before Anya could react, Tora's form shimmered, her body emanating a blinding light. The facility's hum intensified, the vibration morphing into a powerful wave that rippled through the walls. Then, silence. Anya shielded her eyes, cautiously peering towards Tora. The Drex engineer stood unmoving, her form radiating a calming aura, the pulsating light now a gentle glow. The tremors subsided, the alarms fell silent, and the monitors stabilized. Tora, what happened? Tora turned, her multifaceted eyes meeting Anya's with a newfound intensity. I channeled the energy, controlled it, with my mind. Anya stared, speechless. It was as if Tora had unlocked a new level of her abilities. She'd not only stabilized the field, but controlled its unstable surge with sheer willpower. It's incredible, Tora, Anya whispered, her voice trembling with awe. You've made a breakthrough. Tora's multifaceted eyes held a quiet confidence, a new strength shining through her usual gentle demeanor. We can do this, together. Anya smiled, a wave of hope washing over her. This moment, this shared breakthrough, was more than just scientific progress. It was a testament to their growing bond, to their shared understanding, a whisper of the potential that lay ahead. They were nothing until the humans unleashed their potential, and now, together, they were ready to face anything. The air crackled with a mixture of fear and anticipation as Anya Petrova stood before the gathered crowd. Her heart pounded against her ribs, a drumbeat echoing the rising tension in the room. Behind her, the Drex, their bodies shimmering with bioluminescent light, stood in a silent, watchful line. Their presence was both awe-inspiring and unnerving. Anya had spent countless hours trying to bridge the gap between humanity and the Drex, her passionate pleas for understanding met with skepticism and fear. But the recent events, the unexpected attack by an unknown alien vessel, had shifted the tide. The Drex, using their unique abilities to manipulate energy fields, had saved countless lives. Now, they were seen not as a threat, but as a potential solution. This is not just about technology, about power, Anya began, her voice clear and resolute. It's about understanding. The Drex, while different from us, are not an enemy. They are a people with a different way of life, a different understanding of the universe. But their potential, it's immeasurable. A collective sigh swept through the room, a mixture of relief and cautious curiosity. John Jack Williams, the grizzled general who had been Anya's most vocal critic, scrutinized the Drex with narrowed eyes. He still bore the scars of his initial fear, a fear he had fought to overcome. Dr. Petrova, General Williams spoke, his voice gravelly. We saw what they can do, but can we trust them? Can they be integrated into our military? Anya felt a surge of hope. General, she replied, her voice steady, they have proven their loyalty. They risked their lives to save ours. They are not just fighters, they are engineers, they are scientists. Their abilities could revolutionize our technology, our understanding of the universe itself. Krell, a Drex warrior with an enigmatic aura, stepped forward. He spoke in a voice that resonated like a gentle wind chime. We are your allies, humans. We seek peace. We seek understanding. We stand with you against this unknown threat. A hush fell over the room. Krell's words, translated by Anya, resonated with a profoundness that transcended language. His eyes, like shimmering pools of light, held a depth that hinted at a wisdom far beyond their years. Anya, watching Krell, felt a kinship, a connection that seemed to have sprung from the depths of their shared experience. They had both faced the challenges of prejudice, of being judged by appearances rather than by their true potential. Anya turned back to the crowd, her face lit with a newfound determination. We have a chance to build a future together, she said, her voice brimming with hope. A future where humanity and the Drex stand shoulder to shoulder, not as enemies but as allies, ready to face the challenges of an ever-expanding universe. The room, once filled with tension, was now buzzing with a new energy. The fear had not dissipated entirely, but it had been softened by a spark of hope. The whispers of a new dawn, an era of collaboration, now echoed through the halls of power. For Anya, for Krell, and for all those who dared to dream of a future where differences were not obstacles, but bridges, the journey had just begun. The humid air of the Drek's homeworld hung heavy, with a scent of blooming bioluminescent flora. Anya Petrova, still buzzing with the thrill of her discovery, stood gazing at the intricate network of tunnels that led deep into the heart of the Drek city. The towering structures, crafted from an iridescent, moss-like substance, pulsed with a soft, rhythmic glow, as if the very city breathed. "It's incredible," she whispered, her eyes wide with fascination. Her assistant, Liam, a young man with a mop of unruly brown hair, shifted nervously beside her. "It's certainly different," he agreed, his voice barely a murmur. Liam, like many others, was still grappling with the sheer strangeness of the Dreks and their world. Anya turned to him, a smile playing on her lips. "Different, yes, but remarkable, Liam. Remarkable, and we've only scratched the surface." She was right. The Dreks, with their soft, multifaceted eyes and their bodies that shimmered with an inner light, were a constant source of wonder. Despite their initial apprehension, the human team was growing more comfortable with these gentle, sensitive creatures. Anya and Liam followed a group of Dreks, their slender, chitinous limbs moving with surprising grace, as they led the team through a labyrinthine network of tunnels. They were headed to the Heart Chamber, a place of deep reverence for the Dreks, where their most powerful individuals, known as the Singers, were said to connect with the very essence of their world. The Dreks communicated through a series of chirps and clicks, a language as unfamiliar as their very form. But Anya, with her relentless curiosity, was already starting to decipher their intricate communication. Anya had been able to translate a few basic Dreks words, like harmony and balance. It was enough to understand that the Dreks were a peaceful people, deeply connected to the energy that flowed through their world. As they approached the Heart Chamber, the air grew thick with an almost palpable energy. The walls pulsed with a soft, luminescent light, casting dancing shadows that seemed to ripple with life. Inside the chamber, the Dreks gathered in a circle, their bodies shimmering with a vibrant glow. Anya watched, awestruck, as they raised their hands, their slender fingers pulsing with light, as if conducting an unseen symphony. A soft hum filled the air, a harmonic resonance that vibrated through their very being. "They're singing," Liam murmured, his voice filled with awe. They were, in a sense. But it wasn't sound that was the essence of their song. It was energy, pure and raw, that they manipulated with their minds, weaving patterns of energy fields that rippled through the Heart Chamber like a symphony of light. Krell, a young Dreks warrior with a sensitive demeanor and eyes that seemed to shimmer with an inner fire, stepped forward. Anya recognized him as the one who had shown her kindness when she was first captured by his people. She had learned that he was a warrior, but he held a quiet strength that contrasted sharply with the image of a fierce warrior. Krell raised his hand, his fingers pulsing with a soft, blue light. He focused on Anya, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that sent a shiver of anticipation down her spine. He spoke, his voice a soft, melodic hum, a language that seemed to resonate with her very soul. "You seek to understand," he said, his words translated in Anya's mind. "We are the guardians of balance, of the energy that flows through this world. You humans, you have touched it, felt the power, but you are not yet in tune." His words sent a thrill through Anya. She had been right to trust her intuition. She looked at the pulsing light emanating from Krell's fingers, at the energy dancing around him, and a new realization dawned. These creatures, these gentle Dreks, were not just peaceful beings. They were something far more powerful, something that could change the future of both their species. Anya took a deep breath, a sense of purpose filling her. She knew then, with a certainty that echoed in her heart, that this was just the beginning. They had only just begun to understand the potential of the Dreks, and the impact they could have on the future of humanity. The journey had just begun, and the future, Anya knew, was filled with possibilities, both wondrous and terrifying, all intertwined with the fate of the Dreks, their unique abilities, and the bond that was quickly forming between them and humanity. The whirring of data streams filled Anya's lab, a symphony of progress as Tora, the Dreks engineer, worked tirelessly alongside her. With slender, segmented fingers, Tora manipulated the holographic interface, translating Drek's energy signatures into comprehensible data for human systems. Anya, her eyes alight with a mix of fascination and apprehension, observed the rhythmic pulsing of the Drek's energy field. "It's incredible, Tora," Anya breathed, her voice barely a whisper. "The way you can manipulate energy fields, it's beyond anything we've ever imagined." Tora, her antennae twitching in a gesture of acknowledgement, responded in a series of soft clicks and whistles. Anya, familiar with Drek's language, translated the sounds. "We are merely learning to use the energy that flows through all things, Anya. You humans are talented with technology, but you lack the understanding of the flow, the rhythm, the essence of it all." Anya nodded, her mind racing with the possibilities. The Drex's ability to manipulate energy could revolutionize everything from power generation to communication. But it wasn't just the technology that had captured Anya's imagination. It was the Drex themselves. Their quiet resilience, their unwavering sense of purpose in the face of human fear, had touched her deeply. "Tora," Anya said, her voice laced with concern, "we're still receiving strange energy readings from beyond the Sol system. There's a presence out there, something powerful, unlike anything we've encountered before. General Williams believes it's a threat." Tora's antennae flicked, her clicks carrying a tinge of apprehension. "We feel it too, Anya." The whispers of war echo across the cosmos. The air in the lab thickened with a palpable tension. Anya knew that the whispers of war were not just a distant threat. They were a stark reminder of the precarious reality of their new world. The Drex, for all their peaceful nature, were warriors at heart. Their ability to manipulate energy, once a source of wonder, was now a potential weapon in the face of an unknown enemy. Outside the lab, the news was spreading like wildfire. The whispers of war, once confined to scientific channels, had reached the public consciousness. Fear, a familiar enemy of progress, was spreading through the halls of human society. Anya knew that General Williams' skepticism was not unfounded. The Drex, with their alien abilities, were a source of both hope and anxiety. As Anya stood at the window, watching the setting sun cast long shadows across the bustling city, the weight of the world settled on her shoulders. She knew that the fate of their species, both human and Drex, hung in the balance. The whispers of war were growing louder, and she, along with Krell and the rest of the Drex, were at the heart of the storm. Anya felt a hand on her shoulder and turned to see Krell, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the sunset's fiery hues. He spoke in his soft, melodic language, his clicks carrying a reassuring calmness. "We are ready, Anya. We will stand beside you, as we have always done." Anya smiled faintly, a surge of hope flickering within her. The Drex, despite their timidity, had proven their courage. They had faced their fears, their uncertainties, and had stepped forward to protect their new home. Despite the looming threat, Anya felt a glimmer of optimism. Perhaps, in the face of a common enemy, humanity and the Drex could finally learn to trust each other, to grow together, to become something stronger, something more than they had ever been before. The air crackled with tension in the dimly lit command center. Anya Petrova, her brow furrowed, stared at the holographic projections depicting a swirling mass of crimson energy. It was a manifestation of the Drex's power, but one that both fascinated and terrified her. "General Williams," Anya said, her voice strained, "their energy manipulation is beyond anything we've ever witnessed. It's unpredictable." The burly general, his weathered face etched with a mixture of skepticism and grudging admiration, crossed his arms. "Unpredictable, you say? That's a polite way of putting it, Doctor. This Drex energy is as volatile as a supernova. One wrong move, and we could be turned into a pile of ash." "We've been working with them for months now, General," Anya countered, her voice rising slightly. "And there hasn't been a single instance of them intentionally harming anyone. We need to see the potential, not just the risk." "Potential? They're insects, Doctor," Williams spat, his voice thick with disdain. "They're not meant to be wielding power like this. It's unnatural." "Who decides what's natural, General?" Anya challenged, her gaze unwavering. They are sentient beings, with a complex society and a unique understanding of the universe. We need to learn from them, not fear them. A rhythmic humming resonated through the room, growing steadily louder. Anya glanced at the holographic projections, her heart sinking. The Drek's energy was fluctuating wildly, becoming increasingly unstable. "Krell," General Williams barked, his voice laced with urgency. "What's happening?" A holographic image of Krell, the Drek's warrior, appeared beside Anya's projection. His normally placid antennae twitched nervously. "We are uncertain," Krell's voice, amplified by the translator, was hesitant. "The energy is shifting, changing. It is not a threat, but we are struggling to control its flow." Anya shot a worried glance at Williams. "He's saying they're losing control. General, we need to help them." Williams, his face a mask of grim determination, remained unmoved. "Help them? They're the ones wielding the power, Doctor. We're the ones who need help." But before Williams could further articulate his concerns, the humming reached a deafening crescendo. The holographic projections flickered violently, then shattered, plunging the command center into darkness. "What the?" Williams growled, reaching for the emergency lights. Anya felt a cold shiver run down her spine. The Drek's energy, she knew, was capable of far more than just disrupting technology. It could tear apart the fabric of reality itself. "Krell," she shouted, her voice echoing in the darkness. A soft luminescence, faint as a firefly, appeared near Anya. The light grew brighter, taking form as a slender, insectoid figure with luminous wings. It was Krell, his face etched with worry and a flicker of defiance. "We are safe," Krell rasped, his voice filled with a newfound strength. "But the energy, it is reaching out, searching for something." Anya felt a surge of hope. Searching? For what? "For understanding," Krell replied, his luminescent eyes holding a strange intensity. "We believe it seeks a bond, a connection. Not just between us Dreks, but between us and you." Anya stared into Krell's eyes, a wave of understanding washing over her. The Drek's energy wasn't a weapon to be feared. It was a potential bridge, a way to forge a deeper connection between their species. She knew then, as the command center slowly returned to light, that the seed of trust had been planted, and it was a seed that, with careful nurturing, could blossom into something truly extraordinary. The air crackled with a tension thicker than the humid atmosphere of the Drek's homeworld. Anya Petrova stood before Krell, their two species separated by a gulf of understanding as daunting as the swirling nebula visible through the open hatch of the research vessel. Around them, a team of human engineers and Drek's technicians, there forms a contrasting tapestry of flesh and chitin, meticulously calibrated the energy conduit. "This," Anya said, her voice betraying a tremor of excitement, "is a breakthrough. We're finally bridging the gap between our realities." Krell, his antennae twitching in a way that Anya had learned to interpret as nervous anticipation, responded in a series of clicks and hums. Anya, with the help of the Drek's language translator, understood his meaning. "We are not sure this is the right path." Anya's shoulders slumped. "It's the only path we have," she replied, her voice losing some of its usual confidence. "The threat is real, Krell. We need to be ready." The Dreks, despite their peaceful nature, had been forced to confront the reality of violence. The attacks on human outposts, the unsettling whispers of a dark power encroaching on their corner of the galaxy, had stripped away their initial naivete. The Dreks were no longer just observers, but participants in a cosmic struggle. "Our connection to energy fields," Krell communicated, "it is our strength. But to harness it for weapons—" He shivered, his exoskeleton rippling slightly. "It feels unnatural to warp the flow of energy for destruction." Anya understood his hesitation. The Dreks were deeply connected to their environment, their very existence intertwined with the energy flows of their world. To use their abilities for violence felt like a betrayal, a twisting of their very being. "I know," Anya said, her gaze falling to the conduit, its metallic surface reflecting the alien glow of the Drek's homeworld. But what if this is the only way to protect ourselves, to protect you? Krell tilted his head, his multiple eyes reflecting a mixture of apprehension and determination. He looked at the human engineers, at their earnest expressions, their dedication to forging this unlikely alliance. He looked at Anya, her resolute gaze mirroring the steel in her voice. "We are willing to learn," Krell finally communicated, his voice low but firm. "To adapt, to become something more than we were." Anya felt a warmth spread through her chest, a surge of hope as she saw the Drex's commitment. Perhaps the chasm between their two species, the gulf of misunderstanding, could be bridged. Perhaps, together, they could face the darkness that threatened to engulf them both. "Then," Anya said, her voice filled with conviction, "we will face this darkness together." The conduit hummed, a low, resonant vibration that pulsed through the air, a tangible manifestation of the connection being forged. The Drex had accepted their role, their potential. And Anya, her heart swelling with hope, knew that this was just the beginning of their journey, a journey that would test their limits, challenge their beliefs, and ultimately define their destinies. The whispers of the unknown, once filled with fear, now whispered of a future where two species, once so different, could stand united, their strengths intertwined, their fears shared, their destinies entwined. The air in Anya's lab hummed with a low, almost musical frequency. It was the constant thrum of the Drex energy fields, a symphony of pulsating energy that had become as familiar to her as the beat of her own heart. Tora, perched delicately on the edge of a high-tech workbench, her antennae twitching with focused concentration, manipulated a small, glowing orb of pure energy. "It's like a language," Tora said, her voice a soft melodic hum. "Their energy fields, they communicate, they pulse with information. It's not just power, it's understanding." Anya watched, fascinated, as Tora's mandibles manipulated the orb, causing it to shift and change color, its light dancing with a rhythm that seemed to echo Tora's own movements. She'd never seen anything like it. It was an entirely new language, an alien symphony of energy fields that spoke to a core of knowledge beyond human comprehension. "We're deciphering it slowly," Anya said, her fingers tracing the holographic displays that depicted the energy field patterns. "We're starting to understand the basic principles, but there's so much more to unlock." "We need to understand their language, Anya," Tora stressed. "To unlock the full potential of their abilities, we need to speak their language, understand their thought processes. It's not just about control, it's about connection, about understanding their world." Anya nodded, her eyes fixed on the orb, the gentle glow of the Drex energy mesmerizing. The Drex had proven their worth in the recent skirmishes, their energy abilities surprisingly effective in countering the attacks of alien raiders. Yet, there was still a lingering tension, a fear that clung to the air like a persistent odor. "General Williams is still hesitant," Anya said, her voice tinged with frustration. "He sees the Drex as weapons, not partners." "He'll come around," Tora said confidently, her gaze flicking to a holographic display depicting the Drex homeworld. "He just needs to see their full potential, the true depth of their understanding." A sudden tremor ran through the lab, the energy fields of the Drex orb flickering wildly. The lights dimmed, and a low, guttural hum echoed throughout the facility. "What is that?" Anya exclaimed, her voice tight with apprehension. Tora's antennae twitched faster, her gaze fixed on the orb. "It's a message," she whispered. "A message from the deep." Anya felt a surge of anxiety. The Drex homeworld was a planet teeming with life, but the deepest caverns of their world remained unexplored. There were whispers, rumors among the Drex, of ancient beings, entities that resided in the depths, beings that the Drex believed held the secrets of their world. Tora's mandibles moved rapidly, translating the message from the orb. "It's a warning," she said, her voice tight with urgency. "They're coming. They're coming to reclaim their world." Anya felt her heart pound in her chest. A primal fear, a sense of dread she couldn't explain, gripped her. The Drex were peaceful creatures, but their whispers spoke of a power that lay dormant within the depths, a power that could easily eclipse even the formidable abilities they showcased. This was not just an alien invasion, this was something far more ancient, something that threatened to upend the very foundation of existence. "We need to warn the general," Anya said, her voice trembling slightly. "We need to warn humanity." Tora nodded, her antennae twitching with urgency. "Tell him," she said, her voice a low, almost pleading hum. "Tell him that the Drex have a secret, a power, that can protect us all. But only if we learn to understand their language." The orb pulsed with a final, insistent burst of energy, then fell silent. The message from the deep was a call for unity, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable power, understanding and connection were the only true weapons against the darkness that lay ahead. The fate of humanity and the Drex, it seemed, was now intertwined with the secrets held within the depths of their world. The air hummed with anticipation, a tension thicker than the smoke billowing from the training field. The Drex, clad in specialized biosuits designed by Tora, moved in practice formations, their mandibles clicking in unison. Anya stood beside General Williams, watching the spectacle unfold. His face remained unreadable, a mask of military stoicism that Anya had come to understand as well as the lines on her own palm. "They're impressive," Williams conceded grudgingly, his gaze fixed on a group of Drex practicing their energy manipulations. "But can they handle a real fight?" Anya met his gaze, her jaw tightening. "They can handle whatever we throw at them, General. They've proven themselves time and again. That was against mock targets, Anya. This is different. This is about protecting our world, our people." His voice dropped to a low growl, "And I won't put the fate of humanity in the hands of insects." Anya's temper flared. "They're not insects, General. They're intelligent, compassionate beings. They're our allies, and they're ready to fight alongside us." "Allies," Williams scoffed. "They're still an unknown quantity. We know nothing of their true intentions, their motivations. What if they turn on us?" "They won't," Anya asserted, her voice firm. "They've proven their loyalty time and again. They've shown compassion, bravery, and they've risked their lives for us." A loud rumble shook the ground, cutting through their argument. A tremor rippled through the training field, sending dust into the air. The Drex, their antennae twitching, looked towards the horizon in unison. "What is that?" Williams demanded, his hand instinctively reaching for his pistol. Anya's eyes widened in alarm. "It's not an earthquake, it's something else." A plume of black smoke rose in the distance, casting an ominous shadow across the training field. A low, guttural whine pierced the air, growing in intensity with each passing second. "Incoming," a soldier yelled, his voice laced with fear. Anya turned, her heart pounding in her chest. Through the smoke, she could see it a massive, metallic ship, scarred and twisted, descending upon them with a ferocity that sent chills down her spine. It wasn't a conventional spacecraft, not the kind humanity had encountered before. It was something else, something born of darkness and rage. The Drex, their antennae pulsing with energy, moved swiftly into formation. Their mandibles clicked in unison, a symphony of warning and defiance. Their eyes, glowing with an ethereal light, focused on the approaching ship. Williams stared at the spectacle unfolding before him, his face a canvas of conflicting emotions: fear, disbelief, and a flicker of grudging admiration. "What is that thing?" he whispered, his voice barely audible above the thundering roar of the ship's engines. Anya, her eyes fixed on the approaching threat, turned to the general. "This," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart, "is what we've been preparing for." The shadow of doubt, long hanging over the Drex, seemed to lift for a moment. In the face of a common enemy, the human and the Drex stood together, ready to face the storm. Anya could only hope that this shared threat would be the foundation for a stronger, more enduring alliance. The air crackled with an electric tension, hanging heavy in the air above the sprawling, devastated city. Anya Petrova, her face smudged with soot and grime, watched with a mixture of dread and grim determination as a colossal, alien vessel descended upon the ravaged cityscape. It was a sight that would haunt nightmares for generations to come. The Drex, their normally vibrant exoskeletons now dulled with the grime of battle, stood shoulder to shoulder with the human soldiers. Krell, his chitinous carapace scarred from the past battles, surveyed the scene with a chilling stoicism. His antennae, usually twitching with nervous energy, were still focused on the alien threat. Anya knew that beneath that stoic exterior, a storm of emotions raged within him. The alien ship, a monstrous behemoth of metal and shadow, dwarfed everything in its path. Its obsidian hull, reflecting no light, pulsed with an ominous hum that vibrated through the very air itself. The human soldiers, their faces taut with fear, exchanged worried glances. This was a foe like none they had ever encountered, a force that seemed to embody the very essence of annihilation. "General Williams," Anya said, her voice strained, "we need to act now. They are going to unleash something truly devastating." General Williams, his weathered face etched with the burden of command, nodded grimly. "I know, Dr. Petrova. But how? We've been pushed to our limits. We've lost so many." He trailed off, his voice choked with emotion. "We fight, General," Krell's voice resonated, his words as steady as the beat of a drum. "We fight for our home, for every living thing on this planet." As the alien ship drew closer, unleashing a volley of energy blasts that turned buildings into smoldering rubble, Krell raised his hands, his antennae quivering with the intensity of his energy manipulation. He was not a warrior by nature, but the crisis had forced him to embrace the power within. His eyes, usually soft and gentle, now blazed with a fierce determination as he channeled the energy fields, creating a shimmering barrier that deflected the alien attacks. The soldiers, awestruck by the display of Drex power, watched in stunned silence. This was not simply a weapon, it was a testament to the potential that lay dormant within the Drex, a potential that was now fully unleashed. The alien ship, surprised by the Drex's unexpected defense, faltered for a moment, its engines sputtering in confusion. "Now," Anya shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to attack while they are vulnerable." The human soldiers, emboldened by the Drex's display, sprang into action. The air filled with the crackle of laser fire, the roar of cannons, and the desperate cries of men locked in a deadly struggle. The battle raged on, the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. As the battle reached its peak, Anya felt a surge of adrenaline, her mind racing with strategies to turn the tide. She knew that this battle would be the defining moment for both humanity and the Drex, a moment that would decide their shared future. As she stared at the alien ship, its dark hull looming like a harbinger of doom, she felt a newfound sense of hope. This was no longer a struggle for survival, it was a fight for something more, a fight for acceptance, for unity, for the future they were building together, a future where humans and Drex stood side by side, united against the darkness. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation. A chilling silence blanketed the vast expanse of the human Drex fortified perimeter. Above, the crimson-hued sky of the alien planet pulsed with an unnatural rhythm, a discordant counterpoint to the steady hum of the Drex's bioenergy fields. General Williams, his weathered face etched with stoic determination, addressed the assembled soldiers and Drex warriors. "This is it," he boomed, his voice amplified across the battlefield. "The final stand. We fight for our survival, for Earth, for our brethren." Krell, his multifaceted eyes glowing with an inner light, stood beside Williams. His chitinous exoskeleton shimmered with the faint glow of his activated energy field. He nodded, a silent affirmation of their shared purpose. The Drex warriors, their antennae twitching in unison, formed a protective ring around the human soldiers, a testament to the bond forged in the crucible of war. Anya, her eyes fixed on the horizon, felt a tremor of unease. It wasn't just the chilling sight of the colossal alien spire, a gargantuan structure pulsating with a malevolent energy, that unnerved her. It was the palpable tension in the air, the sense of impending doom that hung heavy despite their best efforts. "Tora," Anya whispered, her voice barely audible above the cacophony of preparations. "Have you established a link to the spire's energy field?" Tora, her multi-jointed fingers flying across a console that blended human and Drex technology, looked up with a grim expression. "Link established, Anya," she confirmed, her voice laced with a chilling certainty. "But it's unlike anything we've encountered before. Its power, it's immense." Anya's heart sank. She knew what Tora meant. The Spire wasn't just a weapon. It was a conduit, a gateway to an energy source beyond comprehension. A source that, if harnessed, could obliterate their entire planet. "We have to do this, Anya," Krell said, stepping beside her. His voice, usually quiet and reserved, now resonated with a newfound resolve. "We have to stop them, for our people, for your people." Anya met his gaze, her own determination hardening. She couldn't afford to falter. The fate of two worlds hung in the balance. "We will," she replied, her voice strong. "We will stop them, together." The alien invasion force, a horde of grotesque creatures with shimmering, iridescent exoskeletons, emerged from the shadows of the Spire. As they advanced, their bioenergy fields flickered with a sinister, pulsating light, casting long, grotesque shadows across the battlefield. General Williams, his face grim, raised his hand. "Fire!" The human soldiers unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, their weapons creating a dazzling spectacle of light and sound. The Drex warriors, their energy fields crackling, unleashed a volley of biokinetic projectiles, targeting the enemy with laser-like precision. The battlefield erupted into chaos. Screams, explosions, and the unholy hum of alien energy weapons filled the air. Anya, her eyes focused on the enemy, saw Krell leading a charge of Drex warriors, their bodies a flurry of bioluminescent energy as they clashed with the enemy. With each surge of their energy, they pushed back the alien horde, their courage and determination a beacon of hope in the face of overwhelming odds. But even with their combined might, the human Drex alliance faced an enemy that seemed to grow stronger with every passing moment. The Spire pulsed with a malevolent light, amplifying the aliens' energy fields and sending shock waves of chaotic energy rippling across the battlefield. As the battle raged, a tremor of fear ran through Anya. The enemy was relentless, their numbers seemingly endless. They were fighting for survival, but were they fighting a losing battle? Suddenly, a deafening roar ripped through the air. A monstrous, bioengineered creature, its body a grotesque amalgamation of metal and flesh, emerged from the Spire. Its energy field crackled with a raw, untamed power, its eyes burning with a malevolent intensity. "The Spire's protector," Tora exclaimed, her voice trembling with fear. Anya, her heart pounding in her chest, knew that this was it. This was the final test, the ultimate challenge. The fate of their alliance, and of their worlds, hung in the balance. The air crackled with static, a palpable tension hanging in the sterile atmosphere of the command center. Anya Petrova, her face etched with worry, stared at the holographic projections depicting the approaching enemy fleet. It was larger than anything they had anticipated, a swarm of sleek, obsidian ships cloaked in an energy field that rendered them almost invisible to standard sensors. "We've lost contact with the scouting team," General Jack Williams announced, his voice a gravelly rasp. They were sent to investigate a distress signal from a human outpost on the fringes of the system. Their last transmission indicated they were under attack. Anya's heart sank. She had been advocating for increased Drex integration within the military, but the general remained skeptical. This attack, however, might prove to be the turning point. "General," she urged, her voice firm despite the tremor within, "we need to deploy the Drex. They're the only ones who can sense and disrupt those energy cloaks." Williams turned to her, his eyes narrowed. "We're still debating the risks involved, Petrova. We can't simply unleash them on the battlefield without a clear plan." "We're running out of time, General," a young officer interjected. "The enemy fleet is closing in fast. We need to act now." Anya saw the flicker of doubt in William's eyes, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He knew the Drex were humanity's best hope. Suddenly, the room was filled with the rhythmic hum of a familiar energy signature. Krell, his antennae twitching with anticipation, stepped forward. He had risen to become a leader among the Drex, a testament to his courage and his ability to utilize his energy manipulation skills. "We can track the enemy, General," Krell spoke, his voice a soft buzz that carried the weight of years of training. "Our energy senses can penetrate their cloaking field." Williams hesitated, then nodded. "Deploy the Drex," he ordered, his voice heavy with resignation. "Coordinate with Petrova. We have no other choice." Anya felt a surge of relief wash over her. The Drex were about to prove their worth, their unique abilities finally put to the test against a threat humanity alone could not defeat. Krell, along with a squadron of Drex warriors, were deployed in a specially designed craft, equipped with technology that amplified their abilities. Anya watched them leave, her gaze lingering on Krell's resolute figure. He held within him the hope of a future where humans and Drex could finally stand side by side against a shared enemy. As the Drex ship soared into the vast expanse of space, Anya felt a twist of unease. She knew Krell and his fellow warriors were capable, but the enemy they faced was unlike anything they had encountered before. The shadow of doubt lingered, a whisper in the back of her mind, questioning whether the Drex would be enough to save humanity from this impending threat. The air crackled with static, a silent storm of energy that pulsed across the battlefield. Anya, her heart pounding in her chest, watched as Krell raised his arms, his chitinous shell glowing with an ethereal luminescence. Around him, other Drex warriors stood in a circle, their own bodies a symphony of vibrant energy, their antennae twitching in unison. Anya had never seen this before. The Drex, usually so gentle and reserved, were now transformed, their natural abilities amplified by the desperation of the situation. The invading fleet, a collection of hulking metal ships spewing fire and destruction, loomed in the sky, a malevolent shadow against the setting sun. "General Williams," Anya said, her voice barely a whisper. "They're doing something different." General Williams, his face etched with grim concern, stared at the Drex with a mixture of awe and apprehension. "I don't understand it, Petrov," he admitted, "but it's clear they're preparing for a final stand." As the Drex focused their combined energy, the air around them shimmered, twisting into a kaleidoscope of colors. The alien ships, seemingly aware of the impending threat, unleashed a barrage of energy beams, each one sizzling through the atmosphere, aimed at the Drex warriors. Krell, with a sudden, defiant roar, directed the energy swirling around him. A wave of raw power emanated from him, a shield of shimmering light that deflected the incoming beams, sending them scattering across the battlefield. Other Drex warriors followed suit, their individual energy fields merging into a dazzling vortex of light and color, forming a barrier of protection around their human allies. The invaders, stunned by the unexpected display of power, hesitated. Their planned assault faltered, their advance halted by the Drex's unexpected defense. It was a desperate gamble, a last stand born out of desperation and courage. Anya watched with bated breath, her heart swelling with a mix of fear and hope. "They're doing it, General," she said, her voice filled with awe. They're channeling their energy. They're holding them back." Williams, still visibly shaken by the spectacle, nodded. They're beyond anything we imagined." On the battlefield, a different kind of battle was unfolding. The Drex, their fear replaced by steely determination, charged forward, their bodies glowing with intense energy. The invading forces, taken aback by the Drex's newfound strength, were thrown into disarray. The Drex, utilizing their energy manipulation to disrupt the enemy's weapons and disorient their defenses, were proving to be a formidable force. Anya watched as Krell, his body radiating a brilliant white light, led the charge, his every movement a blur of energy and power. He fought with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine, his every attack precise and deadly. His leadership, born out of necessity, was inspiring his people, pushing them beyond their own limitations. The Drex, once seen as timid and fragile, had become a beacon of courage and strength. They were fighting not just for their own survival, but for the survival of a world that was beginning to understand their true potential. As the battle raged on, Anya realized the price of trust. It was a price paid not just in blood and sacrifice, but in a fundamental shift in understanding. The Drex had shown the world what they were truly capable of, and in doing so, they had earned their place amongst the stars. The air crackled with tension in the command center. Holographic projections danced in the air, depicting the vastness of the Milky Way, a tiny red dot marking Earth's location. General Williams, his weathered face etched with worry, paced back and forth, his gaze fixed on the projections. Anya, her eyes alight with a focused intensity, stared at the data stream pouring from the consoles. Beside her, Dora, her antennae twitching with an almost imperceptible tremor, analyzed the incoming telemetry. "They're getting closer," Anya said, her voice tight. "The energy signature is massive. They're using some kind of advanced propulsion system, something we've never encountered before." "We still don't know anything about them," General Williams said, his voice hoarse. "What are they? Where are they coming from? Are they hostile?" "We have very little data," Anya admitted. "The only thing we can be certain of is their sheer power. Their energy signature fluctuates wildly, like a living being, but it's almost sentient, like it's aware of our presence." Tora, her voice a soft hum, interjected. "Their communication signals are complex. They're not like any alien language we've encountered. It's more like a symphony, a complex arrangement of frequencies and harmonics." Anya's brow furrowed. "A symphony?" "Yes," Tora confirmed. "They seem to be using their energy fields to create intricate patterns, almost like a language of light." Anya turned to face the general, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Could he understand it? General Williams looked at her with a mix of concern and curiosity. "The Drex haven't been able to decipher their communications either. It's an enigma." Anya felt a surge of determination. "If anyone can understand it, Krell can. He has a unique ability to sense and manipulate energy fields, even beyond the Drex's usual range." General Williams hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "All right, Anya, we'll send a communication team. Krell and Tora will be part of it." The command center buzzed with activity as they prepared for the incoming communication. Anya watched Krell, his face etched with anxiety, but a resolute gleam in his eyes, as he entered the communications chamber. He was no longer the timid youth who'd first arrived on Earth. His confidence now forged in the crucible of shared experience, their struggle against fear and prejudice. He was a leader, a protector, not just of his people, but of all life on Earth. Anya felt a surge of pride at his growth, at the courage he had found within himself. He was the embodiment of the potential of the Drex, a testament to their adaptability and their willingness to embrace change. As Krell sat before the communication console, his antennae shimmering with a faint, ethereal glow, Anya whispered a silent prayer. She hoped his unique abilities, his connection to the energies of the cosmos, would unravel the mystery of the incoming alien force. The fate of both Earth and the Drex, perhaps the fate of countless worlds, rested on Krell's shoulders, and Anya, with every fiber of her being, believed he would not fail. The news of the Drex's contribution to the defense of Earth had spread like wildfire. Images of Krell, his antennae glowing with energy, deflecting enemy fire, were plastered across every news channel. Tora, her metallic limbs humming with power, had ingeniously reconfigured captured alien weaponry, turning it against the invaders. The Drex, once objects of fear and suspicion, were now hailed as heroes. Yet, beneath the surface of this newfound admiration, a seed of doubt was sown. General Williams, despite his vocal support for the Drex, still harbored a lingering unease. He had witnessed their power firsthand, the way they effortlessly manipulated energy fields, and a part of him feared their potential for misuse. As the war raged, this fear festered in the back of his mind, a persistent whisper that clouded his judgment. One evening, as the battle raged on a distant moon, Williams sat alone in his office, the holographic projections of the battlefield casting a cold, blue glow across his face. Anya, a weary but determined look on her face, entered the room. She had been working tirelessly, coordinating Drex units with human soldiers, pushing the limits of their combined potential. "Jack," she said, her voice quiet, "I need your help." Williams looked at her, his gaze heavy with unspoken concerns. "What is it, Anya?" "The Drex have been asking about the other enemy," Anya said, choosing her words carefully. "The one that attacked us before the invasion. They want to know why we haven't pursued them." Williams felt a sudden surge of unease. The Drex, despite their growing understanding of human society, were still very much aliens. Their motivations, their desires, were not always clear. "Why do they want to know?" he asked, his voice strained. They claim the other enemy is a threat to their world as well," Anya said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "They say they want to help protect both of our worlds." Williams felt a cold knot forming in his stomach. The Drex were offering their aid, but what if it was a ploy? What if they had their own agenda, a hidden desire to exploit humanity, to control Earth? "Anya, I appreciate their offer, but we need to be careful," he said, his voice firm. "They are still different. We can't trust them completely." Anya gave him a weary smile. "Jack, the Drex have been nothing but helpful. They've risked their lives for us, for Earth. They're not the enemy." Williams looked at her, his features softening slightly. He knew Anya was right. The Drex had proven their loyalty, their courage. But the doubt, the seed of fear, remained. "I know, Anya," he said, his voice a low murmur. "But we have to be cautious. We have to be sure." The conversation ended with a shared understanding, a silent acknowledgement of the lingering uncertainties. The Drex were allies, yes, but the shadow of doubt, the apprehension of the unknown, still lingered, a constant reminder of the delicate balance that held their partnership together. The air hung heavy with anticipation, a tangible tension that vibrated through the reinforced command center. Anna Petrova, her brow furrowed with worry, watched the holographic projections depicting the approaching alien fleet. It was a sight both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The enemy vessels, sleek and menacing, dwarfed even the largest human warships. "They're closing in," reported General Jack Williams, his deep voice tinged with grim urgency. He stood beside Anya, his gaze fixed on the holographic display. Months of preparation had culminated in this moment. Their alliance with the Drex, once a radical idea, had been forged in the fires of a desperate struggle for survival. The Drex, once viewed with suspicion, were now a vital part of their defense strategy. Their unique ability to manipulate energy fields had been harnessed to create devastating weapons and intricate defenses. Anya, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and pride, saw Krell, the Drex warrior who had become a close friend, standing tall among the human soldiers. His usually timid demeanor had been replaced by a steely determination. "Krells," Anya said, addressing him over the communication network. "Are you ready?" Krell, his chitinous skin reflecting the harsh lights of the command center, responded with a quiet but resolute, "We are prepared, Anya. We will fight for our home, for our shared future." As the enemy ships breached the outer defense perimeter, a wave of energy surged across the battlefield. The Drex's technology, engineered by Tora and her team, pulsed with blinding light and thunderous energy. The Drex, under Krell's command, stood at the forefront, their bodies shimmering with an ethereal glow as they channeled their energy abilities, creating an impenetrable shield around the human fleet. The first wave of enemy fighters, their weapons blazing, met the Drex's defenses with a deafening roar. The energy shield, a masterpiece of Drex engineering, deflected the enemy's attacks, turning their weapons into harmless sparks. The human soldiers, initially stunned by the intensity of the battle, rallied behind the Drex, their weapons firing in a symphony of destruction. Anya's heart soared with a sense of hope, a belief that they might actually win this desperate battle. The Drex, their once feared abilities now a cornerstone of their defense, were proving to be the key to their survival. But even with the Drex's extraordinary abilities, the enemy was relentless, their tactics shifting, probing for weaknesses. "They're adapting," General Williams warned, his voice tight with concern. "We need to counter them before they break through." "We have a plan," Krell responded, his voice echoing across the command center. "It's risky, but it might work." Anya looked at Krell, her eyes searching for any hint of doubt. But she saw only determination, a fire in his eyes that reflected the determination of every human and Drex soldier on the battlefield. "What is it, Krells?" she asked, her voice low and urgent. "We will use our abilities to create a shield, a massive one," Krell explained. "It will be powerful enough to disrupt their weapons, but it will drain us." "But it's worth the risk," Anya said, her voice filled with conviction. The Drex, their bodies glowing with a renewed intensity, began to draw on their deep energy reserves. They formed a massive shield, a protective dome that enveloped the entire human fleet. The enemy's weapons, striking the shield, were met with a counterwave of energy. The battlefield erupted in blinding light, a chaotic spectacle of energy clashing against energy. Anya watched, her breath catching in her throat, as the Drex's shield strained under the relentless assault. She saw Krell at the heart of the shield, his body pulsing with energy, his face grim as he channeled his power. The enemy, their weapons faltering, their ships shuddering under the strain of the Drex's shield, were thrown into disarray. Anya saw a glimmer of hope, a chance for victory. But the Drex, their energy depleted, were falling back, their bodies drained. The battle, still far from over, had entered a new phase, a desperate struggle for survival. And Anya, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope, knew that the Drex's gambit was only the beginning. The fight for their future had just begun. Anya Petrova watched the unfolding chaos from the command center, her heart pounding against her ribs. The alien ships, sleek and menacing, swarmed the sky over New York City, their weapons spewing a torrent of fire. Below, the human forces fought back with a desperate ferocity, but the enemy was relentless, overwhelming, and undeniably superior. "We can't hold them," General Williams said, his voice grim despite the booming sounds of battle that echoed through the room. "Their firepower is too much. We need a miracle." His gaze fell upon Anya, who stood rigidly, her eyes fixed on the holographic battlefield projected before them. She saw the despair in his eyes, the unspoken fear that gnawed at him. She knew what he was thinking. Humanity was on the brink of annihilation. "We have a miracle," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "The Drex." Anya saw the skepticism flicker in Williams's eyes. He had never fully trusted the Drex, clinging to the old fears that had haunted humanity since their arrival. But this was no time for doubt. The fate of Earth rested upon the shoulders of these insectoid warriors. "Their energy field manipulation is at its peak tonight," Anya continued, her voice gaining strength. "They can cripple those ships, General, if we can just get them onto the battlefield." Williams's lips tightened, but the urgency in Anya's eyes finally pierced through his resistance. He nodded curtly. "Get them ready." A few minutes later, the command center vibrated with a strange, low hum. It was the Drex, their bodies glowing with a soft, ethereal light as they prepared to unleash their potential. Krell, leading his warriors, stood at the heart of the hive. The air crackled around him, buzzing with energy. He felt it pulsing through every fiber of his being, a symphony of power that coursed through the interconnected minds of his people. This was the moment they had been preparing for, the moment they would prove their worth to their human allies. The Drex emerged from their subterranean encampment, their forms shimmering in the night sky as they rose above the battle. They were a swarm of light, a chorus of energy, their bodies humming in unison, their minds linked in a collective symphony of purpose. Krell, his wings unfurling like shimmering banners, led the charge. They surged towards the alien ships, their bodies a whirlwind of bioluminescence, weaving through the air with unerring precision. From the command center, Anya watched in awe, her breath caught in her throat. The Drex were a sight to behold, a testament to the power of unity and the potential that lay hidden within the most unlikely of creatures. They were no longer just the timid, misunderstood aliens humanity had once feared. They were warriors, protectors, a force of nature unleashed upon the battlefield. Krell, his energy field amplified by the combined strength of his kin, focused his will, targeting the heart of the alien mothership. With a surge of energy, he struck, and the alien ship shuddered, its engines sputtering, its defenses failing. A wave of cheers erupted from the command center. The Dreks were making a difference. They were turning the tide of the battle. But the enemy was not easily defeated. They retaliated with a vengeance, unleashing a barrage of attacks that threatened to overwhelm the Dreks. Krell, his resolve unwavering, led his warriors through the onslaught. He knew this was their moment, their defining battle. He would not allow their sacrifice to be in vain. The night sky above New York City was painted with a kaleidoscope of light and fire, a battle for the future of humanity and the Dreks. And in the heart of it all, Krell, the once timid insectoid, fought with the courage of 1,000 warriors, his heart a beacon of hope, guiding his people, guiding humanity towards a brighter tomorrow. The air hung thick with anticipation. The Dreks engineering team, under the tireless leadership of Tora, had finally perfected the prototype. Her nimble appendages, normally used for delicate manipulation of energy fields, now danced across the intricate circuitry of a device unlike any seen before. "It's ready," Tora declared, her voice a gentle hum, translated by Anya's earpiece. Anya smiled, a surge of relief washing over her. This was it, the culmination of months of tireless work, the culmination of a partnership that had forged a bond stronger than anyone could have imagined. The Dreks, once seen as a threat, were now a vital part of the human defense network, their unique abilities crucial in the impending battle against the invading forces. General Williams, still a man of few smiles, stood beside Anya, his gaze fixed on the device. He had been skeptical at first, reluctant to trust these strange insectile beings with the fate of humanity. But the Dreks had proven their worth, and Williams, a man who valued strength above all else, had come to respect their courage and loyalty. "It's called the Harmony Amplifier," Anya explained, her voice filled with pride. "It uses the Dreks' energy manipulation to amplify human weaponry, creating a coordinated force that can rival the enemy's power." "A risky proposition," Williams said, his brow furrowed. "But if it works, it could be our only chance." "It will work," Tora said, her voice calm and unwavering. "We have tested it rigorously. The Dreks, the humans, we will fight as one." The first wave of enemy ships appeared on the horizon, their hulls shimmering with menacing energy. Anya could see the fear in the eyes of the human soldiers, but also a newfound sense of hope, bolstered by the presence of the Dreks warriors standing beside them, their mandibles gleaming in the battlefield's harsh light. Krell, now a seasoned leader, stood at the forefront, a silent but powerful figure. His eyes, once filled with timid uncertainty, now shone with a resolute fire. He had faced his fears, embraced his potential, and become a beacon of strength for his people. "We are ready," Krell said, his voice amplified through the translator, reverberating across the battlefield. "Let us show them what we can do, together." The soldiers fired, their weapons enhanced by the Harmony Amplifier, their blasts carving through the enemy ranks with devastating force. The Dreks warriors, in unison, directed energy fields, weaving a shield of pure energy around the human lines, deflecting incoming fire with ease. The battlefield was a kaleidoscope of light and sound, a symphony of destruction and resilience. The enemy pressed forward, their numbers seemingly endless, but the human Dreks alliance stood firm, their unity an unyielding force. As the battle raged, Anya watched with a mixture of terror and pride. This was a fight for survival, a fight that would determine the fate of two species, a fight that would test the strength of their newfound partnership. She saw Krell, leading his people with an unwavering spirit, his energy fields dancing with deadly precision. She saw Tora, her antennae twitching with focused concentration, directing the Harmony Amplifier, amplifying the human weapons with the power of their unique abilities. She saw General Williams, his face contorted in grim determination, rallying his troops with a voice that commanded respect and loyalty. And she saw the soldiers, human and Dreks, fighting side by side, each one a testament to the power of unity. They were no longer humans and Dreks, but a force that transcended their differences, a force that stood together against a common enemy, a force that had learned to harness the power of their shared potential. Their battle was far from over, but as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the ravaged landscape, Anya knew one thing for certain: they were no longer nothing. They were a force to be reckoned with, a unified force, a force that had found strength in their differences, a force that had learned to embrace the potential for change, a force that had discovered the power of being something truly extraordinary together. The crimson sun of Zolan, a world once vibrant with life, now cast a blood-red hue over the desolate landscape. The Drex, huddled in their bioluminescent havens, watched in silent horror as the metallic behemoths of the Kaithra descended upon the planet, their weapons spitting fire and tearing through the once lush environment. Anya Petrova, her face grim, stood beside Krell, the Drex warrior who had become her closest confidant. They were observing the Kaithra invasion from the command center of the human Drex fleet, a stark contrast to the tranquil bioluminescent caverns that housed the Drex. Anya, as always, was a whirlwind of activity, barking orders, coordinating defense plans, and ensuring the Drex were integrated into the human military. Krell, on the other hand, remained silent, his antennae twitching nervously as he scanned the incoming data feeds. He was a picture of stoicism, his normally placid blue eyes filled with a steely determination. "They're relentless," Anya whispered, her voice tight with anxiety. "Their energy shields are impervious to our current weaponry." Krell nodded, his antennae vibrating rapidly. "They are like a swarm of venomous insects, relentless in their attack." The Kaithra, a technologically advanced species from a distant star system, had arrived like a storm. Their motives remained shrouded in mystery, but their intent was clear. They were intent on subjugating Zolan, and by extension, Earth. The initial attacks had been swift and devastating, and Earth's defenses, while formidable, were struggling to hold back the relentless onslaught. Anya's gaze fell on the holographic projection of General Williams, his weathered face etched with concern. "We need a strategy, Anya," he said, his voice gruff. "We can't hold them off forever." Anya's eyes met Krell's, and a silent understanding passed between them. Their species had joined forces, but their knowledge and abilities were still largely disparate. The Drex, with their unique ability to manipulate energy fields, held the key to countering the Kaithra, but their understanding of their own power was still evolving. "We need to exploit their weakness," Anya said, her voice firm. "Their energy shields are vulnerable to specific frequencies. The Drex can generate those frequencies, but only in a concentrated burst." Krell stepped forward, his antennae quivering with anticipation. "We can do it," he said, his voice a low rumble. "But it will require every ounce of our strength." Anya looked at him, her heart pounding with both fear and hope. The Drex had proven their courage time and again, but this was a test unlike any they had faced before. This was a fight for their very existence, a fight for the future of their planet. "Then let us show them what we are truly capable of," Anya said, her voice filled with unwavering conviction. "Let us show them that even the smallest creatures can rise to meet the greatest challenges." Krell nodded, his blue eyes meeting Anya's. Their gaze locked, a silent promise exchanged. They would stand together, human and Drex, against the shadow that had fallen upon their worlds. They would fight for survival, for hope, for the future they had strived to build, for the future that was now at stake. The sky above the human city of Etheria was a tapestry of swirling crimson and bruised violet. It wasn't the natural sunset that usually painted the sky with calming hues of orange and pink. This was the sickly glow of the alien vessel, a colossal, metallic behemoth, casting a shadow of dread across the earth. The air hummed with a low, menacing thrum, a symphony of death that pulsed through the very core of Anya Petrova's being. Anya, her gaze fixed on the looming vessel, felt a cold hand grip her heart. The Drex, her allies, her friends, were out there, fighting, their tiny forms amidst the monstrous metal of the invasion force. Krell, Tora, all of them, risking their lives for a species that had once feared them, a species that had doubted their worth. Anya knew their resilience, their determination, but even her unwavering faith in them felt strained under the oppressive weight of the alien threat. General Williams, his face etched with a mixture of worry and grim resolve, stood beside her. "They're holding strong," he said, his voice a strained whisper, "but we need to do more. We need to push back harder, harder than we've ever pushed before." Anya knew he was right. The Drex were valiant, but the enemy was relentless, a swarm of sleek, insectoid creatures, their bodies shimmering with energy, their weapons crackling with lethal power. They moved like a single organism, flowing, shifting, a force too vast for any human army to withstand alone. "We have to get to them," she said, her voice tight with urgency. "We have to get to them and fight alongside them. Show them that they're not alone." General Williams, his eyes locked on the alien vessel, nodded. "We're already deploying the new weapon system, the one Tora helped design. It's powerful, and it can disrupt their energy fields." Anya felt a spark of hope ignite within her. Tora, with her quiet brilliance, had found a way to exploit the enemy's reliance on energy, to turn their power against them. She could only pray this was the weapon they needed to turn the tide. "How long?" Anya asked, her voice tight. 45 minutes, General Williams answered, his eyes flickering to the sky. 45 minutes before we can unleash the first volley." Anya glanced at the city below, the streets deserted, buildings eerily silent, a stark contrast to the vibrant life that usually echoed through their streets. She closed her eyes and saw Krell, his face a mask of concentration as he led his warriors, their tiny bodies a beacon of resilience against the overwhelming force of the enemy. He was no longer the timid creature she had first met, but a leader, a warrior, a symbol of the Drex's newfound strength. He needed her. They all needed her. Anya took a deep breath, steeling herself. She knew what she had to do. She had to fight, not just for humanity, but for the Drex, for the bond they had forged, for the future they were building together. The air crackled with anticipation. 45 minutes. 45 minutes to hold on, to fight, to believe. 45 minutes to prove that even against the darkest of odds, a united front could stand against the shadow of the swarm. The air crackled with a nervous energy that defied the calm facade of the human command center. Anya Petrova, her usual serenity replaced with a tense, focused determination, traced a holographic image of the approaching enemy fleet. Rows of jagged, obsidian ships, like gigantic, malevolent insects, filled the screen, their hulls shimmering with an unnatural energy field. "It's larger than we anticipated," General Williams said, his gruff voice laced with concern. He had come a long way from his initial distrust of the Drex. Now he stood alongside Anya, their shared responsibilities forging a bond of trust and respect. "They're using a cloaking technology we haven't seen before," Tora, the Drex engineer, reported, her voice soft but resolute. She had been working tirelessly, alongside human teams, to develop countermeasures, but this new threat felt formidable. "They're using a powerful energy field," Tora, Anya said, her gaze fixed on the holographic image. "But there's a pattern, a rhythm. If we can understand it, maybe the Drex can help us disrupt it." Krell, the Drex warrior who had become a symbol of his people's resilience, stepped forward, his mandibles clicking in quiet concentration. His once hesitant demeanor had been replaced by a composed confidence, a fire ignited within him by the shared responsibility of protecting his adopted home. "There is a discordance," Krell said, his voice low and guttural. "The rhythm, it is not perfectly aligned. It is like a symphony that has one instrument playing the wrong note." "A discordance?" Anya asked, a spark of hope igniting within her. "Tell us what you see. Can it be manipulated?" Krell nodded, his eyes fixed on the holographic image. "A small shift. A small change in the field. It will throw off their cloak. It will make them vulnerable." The hope in the room was palpable. This was the chance they had been waiting for, the breakthrough they needed to turn the tide of the war. Tora, her antennae twitching with excitement, immediately began working with human technicians to adapt the Drex technology to target this specific weakness. "It's a narrow window of opportunity," Anya warned, her voice sharp with urgency. We need to move quickly. This is our chance to fight back. The atmosphere in the command center became a whirlwind of activity. Engineers, technicians, and soldiers worked in a synchronized frenzy, their collective energy fueled by a desperate hope. Krell, with his team of Drex warriors, prepared for a daring attack, a symphony of energy manipulation that would expose the enemy's vulnerability. The obsidian ships, still cloaked, descended on Earth like a swarm of predatory insects. But within their ranks, a discordance was building, a disruption in their energy field. A ripple of anticipation, both fear and anticipation, ran through the human command center as they prepared for the first counterstrike. The shadow of the swarm hung heavy over Earth. But the humans, armed with the unique abilities of the Drex, were ready to fight back. The battle for their homeworld had truly begun. The air hung heavy with anticipation, thick with the hum of 1,000 shielded engines. Anya, perched on the bridge of the human flagship, felt the tremor of the vessel as it braced itself for the final push. Her gaze swept over the vast fleet, a mix of human and Drex warships, all pointed towards the looming form of the Colossus. The enemy ship, a leviathan of steel and shadow, dominated the void. Its obsidian hull shimmered with a malevolent energy, a chilling testament to the power it wielded. The sheer scale of the Colossus dwarfed even the largest human dreadnought, making it seem like an insectoid warrior facing a monstrous behemoth. "Ready for the assault, Commander," a voice announced from the tactical station. It was General Williams, his weathered face tight with determination. He stood beside Anya, a stark contrast to the youthful scientist, yet their shared gaze held a common purpose. "Initiate the Drex deployment," Anya responded, her voice firm despite the tremor in her gut. "Let's end this." A ripple of energy pulsed through the fleet, a signal acknowledging the order. Drex ships, their hulls sleek and bioluminescent, surged forward, forming a protective barrier around the human vessels. Anya watched as the Drex activated their unique energy shields, a shimmering, living defense that pulsated across the void. Krell, at the helm of his own Drex cruiser, led the charge. His mandibles clicked in a silent command as he directed his crew. His eyes, burning with a newfound intensity, scanned the battlefield, strategizing their assault. A shared understanding, forged in the fiery crucible of countless battles, existed now between him and Anya. Their goals were intertwined, their destinies tethered by a common thread of survival. The first wave of fighters, piloted by Drex warriors, launched into the void, their forms a blur of bioluminescence as they wove through the hostile fire. Their purpose? To disrupt the Colossus's shields, creating a window for the human ships to deliver their devastating payload. The battle raged, a symphony of fire and energy. Beams of pure plasma cut through the void, meeting the shimmering defense of the Drex shields. The air thrummed with the roar of engines, the distant thuds of explosions, and the mechanical shriek of laser fire. Anya watched, her heart pounding, as the Drex fighters pushed deeper into the fray, their bravery a beacon against the overwhelming might of the Colossus. Tora, stationed within the flagship's engineering section, worked tirelessly, her nimble appendages manipulating the complex system that powered the Drex's unique energy manipulation. Her mind, a whirlwind of calculations, translated the data streaming from the battlefield, devising strategies to amplify the Drex shields and weaken the Colossus's defenses. The Drex warriors, despite their physical limitations, fought with a tenacity that defied their timid past. They charged into the heart of the enemy's lines, their energy blades sparking and crackling, their bodies adorned with the symbols of their species, a testament to their unwavering valor. Anya felt a surge of pride, tinged with anxiety. The Drex, her beloved allies, were risking everything on the line. They were fighting not just for their own survival, but for the fate of humanity as well. Through the chaos, Anya caught a glimpse of Krell, his mandibles clenched in a resolute expression. He was the embodiment of the Drex's transformation, a testament to their potential, their courage, their unwavering spirit. She knew, with a certainty that settled deep within her soul, that this was the battle that would decide the fate of both their species. As the Drex pushed their attack, their energy shields faltered. The Colossus, sensing the breach, unleashed its full might, unleashing a barrage of energy that rippled through the battlefield. Anya watched in horrified anticipation as the energy wave neared their flagship, the lifeblood of their defense. She knew that if the flagship fell, the battle was lost. Then, a surge of energy erupted from the Drex warships, a wave of concentrated power that met the enemy's attack head-on. The two forces collided, a deafening roar echoing across the void, as if the fabric of reality was itself straining under the immense pressure. Anya held her breath, bracing for the inevitable. But then, the wave of energy pulsed, vibrated, and then, it dissipated, leaving behind only the faint whisper of its passing. The Drex had held. They had absorbed the attack, channeling its destructive force into a shield that protected the entire fleet. A cheer erupted from the bridge, a wave of relief washing over Anya. The Drex had saved them. They had shown their potential, their courage, and their unwavering loyalty. Anya glanced at General Williams, his face now etched with a mixture of awe and respect. He knew, just as she did, that the Drex had just rewritten the course of history. They were not just allies, not just partners, but a vital part of the fabric of their shared future. And as the battle raged on, Anya knew that they would ultimately prevail. The Drex, once seen as timid and weak, had proven themselves to be the most powerful weapon humanity had ever wielded. They were, indeed, much more than they ever thought they could be. They were the shield of humanity. They were the hope of the future. They were the Drex. The sky above Earth was a tapestry of chaos. Crimson tendrils snaked through the atmosphere, searing trails of fire across the once familiar blue canvas. Below, the ground shuddered with the impact of alien ships, their sleek, predatory forms consuming the cityscape like ravenous insects. Humanity's valiant efforts, fueled by the fury of a cornered animal, were proving futile against the sheer might of the invaders. Anya watched from the command center, her heart a drum against her ribs. The tension in the room was palpable, thick with the scent of fear and the metallic tang of spilled coffee. General Williams, his face ashen under the harsh overhead lights, stared out at the holographic projections of the battle unfolding outside. "We're losing ground, General," reported a voice from the communication station. "Their energy weapons are too powerful. We need to find a way to neutralize them." Williams's gaze fixed on Anya. "Dr. Petrova," he said, his voice rough, "I need you to come up with something. Anything." Anya, her own anxieties gnawing at her, nodded resolutely. "I'm working on it, General. We're trying to analyze their energy signatures. It seems they're drawing power from a source we haven't encountered before." Their conversation was interrupted by a shrill alarm that sent a wave of icy dread through the room. "Sir," a technician reported, voice trembling. "We've detected another wave of incoming ships. They're heading for the main power grid." "Damn it," Williams swore, his face grim. "If they cripple our power network, the Drex won't be able to utilize their full abilities." Anya, her mind racing, suddenly had an idea. She rushed to the main console, her fingers dancing across the keyboard. "General," she said, her voice tight with urgency, "I might have a solution, but it's risky." "If it gives us even a sliver of an advantage," Williams snapped, "then we take the risk." Anya turned to Krell, who stood beside her, his antennae twitching nervously. "Krell, you and your warriors need to focus on the power grid. We're going to use your abilities to create a diversion, to buy us some time." Krell met her gaze, his large eyes filled with a new kind of determination. "I understand. We will do what we must." Anya pressed a button, and the room filled with a blinding flash of light. A wave of energy surged through the room, causing the holographic projections to flicker violently. Then, silence descended. "Krell, are you ready?" Anya asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I am," he replied, his voice resonating with newfound confidence. From the main control center, Anya watched as Krell led his warriors out of the room, their energy fields flickering and pulsating like bioluminescent fireflies. They were heading towards the power grid, a beacon of hope in the face of overwhelming odds. The fight for humanity's survival, Anya realized, was no longer a battle of human versus alien. It was a fight for the very essence of life, a testament to the power of collaboration and the potential that lay dormant within every species, waiting to be awakened. The air thrummed with a desperate energy, a symphony of crackling laser fire and the deafening roar of explosions. Above the ravaged cityscape, the horizon was a chaotic dance of crimson and gray, the remnants of a burning sky. The battle for Earth had reached a fever pitch, a desperate struggle for survival against an onslaught that seemed unstoppable. General Williams, his face grimed with sweat and dirt, watched the scene unfold from a vantage point on the roof of a half-destroyed skyscraper. He had never witnessed anything like it. The alien warships, sleek and menacing, tore through the city like hungry predators, their weapons spewing death with chilling efficiency. Human resistance, valiant as it was, seemed overwhelmed. "General," a voice crackled through his calm, "we're losing ground. They're pushing us back." Williams clenched his jaw, his eyes scanning the ravaged landscape. He knew the report was accurate. The tide of the battle was turning, and it was turning against them. He had initially doubted the Drex's ability to turn the tide, but now, staring into the face of a desperate loss, he could see the value of their unique abilities. Suddenly, a wave of energy rippled through the battlefield. It was unseen, but felt, a palpable tension that constricted the air and sent shivers down his spine. He watched, mesmerized, as the alien warships, momentarily frozen in their attack, began to shudder violently. Their weapons sputtered, their engines sputtered, and then, one by one, they began to fall from the sky, like wounded birds. What is happening?" he whispered, his voice barely audible above the din of the battle. "It's the Drex," Anya Petrova's voice, calm and resolute, echoed in his ear. They're using their energy fields to disrupt the enemy's technology." Williams watched as a colossal Drex warrior, his chitinous exoskeleton shimmering with an iridescent glow, emerged from the smoke and debris. It was Krell, his eyes burning with a newfound intensity, his antennae trembling with a focused energy. He stood, a solitary figure against the backdrop of devastation, and raised his hands, channeling the energy around him, creating a shield of shimmering light that deflected incoming fire. The Drex, once seen as timid and vulnerable, now stood as a force of nature, their unique abilities unleashed in the face of a desperate need. They were no longer the gentle inhabitants of a distant world, but warriors fighting for their adopted home, for their own survival, and for the future of humanity. The tide of the battle was turning. The alien invaders, caught off guard by the Drex's unexpected power, were losing their advantage. The human soldiers, emboldened by the Drex's bravery, fought with renewed vigor, pushing back the enemy with a ferocity born from desperation and hope. The sky, once a canvas of fire and destruction, began to clear, revealing a sliver of the azure blue of the earth. The battle was far from over, but Williams knew, with a certainty that warmed his heart, that they were finally fighting back. The Drex, their potential finally unleashed, were not just allies, but a beacon of hope, a testament to the unexpected strength that can be found in the most unlikely of places. The crimson glow of the alien warships cast an eerie pall over Nova City, the sprawling metropolis that had once hummed with the energy of human ingenuity. Now, it was a fortress under siege, a desperate bastion against a tide of invaders that threatened to consume the world. The Drex, their iridescent bodies shimmering in the unnatural light, formed a defensive line along the city's perimeter. They were no longer a novelty, a curiosity, or an experiment. They were warriors, a vital part of the human defense force, their energy manipulation abilities turning them into living shields against the alien onslaught. Anya Petrova, her face smudged with grime and fatigue, watched the scene unfold from atop a skyscraper, the wind whipping her hair around her face. Beside her stood Krell, the Drex warrior who had become more than just a comrade, a friend, a confidante. His normally placid eyes, usually reflecting the gentle serenity of his people, now burned with a fierce determination. "They're relentless," Anya murmured, her voice barely audible over the din of battle. Krell nodded, his antennae twitching with concern. "They are adaptable. They learn from each attack, adjusting their tactics." And we have to do the same, Anya said, her gaze fixed on the approaching invaders. We need to disrupt their energy fields. Tora's been working on a new disruptor, but it needs a power source. Their energy signature is complex, Krell said, extending a hand toward the sky. It's a chaotic mix of energies, unlike anything we've seen before. They're not natural, Anya mused. Something's manipulating their energy fields. We need to find out what. Their conversation was interrupted by a deafening explosion, shaking the ground beneath them. The alien warships, their edges shimmering with a destructive aura, were unleashing a barrage of energy waves, tearing through the city's defenses. Human soldiers, their faces etched with grit and fear, fought back valiantly, but it was a losing battle. Anya watched as a group of Dreks, their forms glowing with concentrated energy, attempted to repel the attack. They were powerful, their abilities honed through years of training, but they were outnumbered. The alien energy was simply overwhelming. "Help them," Anya said, her voice ringing with urgency. Krell nodded, his eyes hardening. He turned to the Drex warriors, his voice ringing out, clear and powerful. "Hold your ground. Utilize the formations we practiced. We will not falter." The Drex rallied, their bodies shimmering with newfound resolve. Krell, his form radiating a vibrant blue light, charged forward, leading the charge against the alien onslaught. He was a beacon of hope, a symbol of their courage and determination, a symbol of the Drex's newfound purpose. Anya watched, her heart pounding with a mix of admiration and fear. She knew, deep down, that this battle was just the beginning. The stakes were higher than ever, the future of both human and Drex civilization hanging in the balance. They were nothing until humans unleashed their potential. Now they had to prove that potential, to stand together, to fight for their future, to become something more than they ever thought possible. The air crackled with static energy, a silent symphony of destruction painting the cityscape in an eerie, neon glow. The Drex warriors, their bioluminescent forms shimmering in the artificial light, stood shoulder to shoulder with the human soldiers, forming an unlikely barricade against the onslaught of the invading force. Krell, his antennae twitching with barely contained anxiety, surveyed the battlefield. The enemy, a swarm of sleek, metallic drones, seemed to know no fatigue, their relentless attacks a symphony of buzzing blades and searing energy blasts. He had never witnessed such a display of pure aggression, an alien concept to the peaceful Drex, who understood only the silent language of energy fields. His gaze fell upon Tora, her insectoid features illuminated by the flickering lights of a nearby control panel. She was working feverishly, her nimble claws manipulating the intricate wiring with an almost surgical precision. A surge of pride washed over Krell. Tora, once a hesitant young engineer, had become a vital asset to the human military, her ability to control and manipulate energy fields turning the tide of the battle. "Krell, we're losing ground," a human soldier yelled, his voice laced with desperation. "Their energy shields are too strong." "Hold your ground," Krell barked back, his voice surprisingly firm. "Tora will have something soon. We need to keep them at bay." Tora, her antennae humming with a faint, green light, finally turned to them, her face etching a mix of relief and concern. "I've managed to disrupt their energy flow. It's unstable, but it's enough." A renewed sense of hope surged through the soldiers, a glimmer of light in the face of overwhelming darkness. As they braced themselves for the enemy's next assault, Krell felt a strange sensation, a pulsating echo of energy resonating within him, a faint but powerful vibration. It was an ancient call, a primal instinct awakening within him. Krell, Tora's voice, tinged with a slight tremor, reached his auditory receptors. "An energy signature. I'm getting it again. It's coming from the city center." The words hung heavy in the air, a chilling truth slowly dawning upon Krell. The enemy, a force of pure devastation, had targeted the very heart of human civilization. The city center, where millions resided, was in peril. The echo of silence, a whisper of terror, resonated through Krell's being. "We have to stop them," Krell declared, his voice ringing with newfound resolve. "We can't let them destroy everything we've fought for." his antennas extended, the energy within him surging, pulsing with fierce determination. He could sense the energy signatures of his fellow Drex warriors, their collective strength a shield against the encroaching darkness. It was time to fight, to defend not just humanity, but the very essence of their bond, the fragile hope of a shared future. Together, humans and Drex, they would face this new threat, united against an enemy that threatened to obliterate the fragile alliance they had painstakingly built. The city, shrouded in the ominous glow of the approaching drones, pulsed with potential energy, a symphony of life teetering on the brink. The battle for Earth was far from over. The echo of silence would soon be replaced by the roar of their united defiance. The battlefield was a tapestry of chaos. A crimson sky, choked with smoke and debris, bled onto the ravaged cityscape below. Once a gleaming monument to human ingenuity, the sprawling metropolis of Nova City was now a shattered testament to the relentless fury of the invasion. Krell, his exoskeletal armor scarred and battered, stood atop a toppled skyscraper, a vantage point offering a panoramic view of the chaotic battle. His compound eyes, usually reflecting the quiet contemplation of his Drex brethren, now burned with a fierce determination that mirrored the inferno raging below. The enemy, the Chthon, were a relentless tide of obsidian armor and crackling energy weapons, their relentless advance fueled by an insatiable hunger for conquest. Human and Drex forces fought back with desperate courage, their weapons a symphony of fire and light against the encroaching darkness. Anya, her face streaked with grime and sweat, directed a squad of Drex warriors, their shimmering energy fields weaving a protective barrier around a group of wounded soldiers. General Williams, his weathered face etched with concern, barked orders through a comms device, his voice a calm island in the storm of battle. Krell, Anya's voice crackled through the comms, cutting through the din. "We're losing ground. The Chthon are pushing hard toward the central power grid. We have to stop them." Krell nodded, his mandibles clicking in affirmation. He felt the pulse of the city's energy grid, a symphony of power that resonated through his senses. It was a delicate balance, a fragile web that sustained the very beating heart of Nova City. If the Chthon breached the grid, not only would they gain control of the city's defenses, but they would also unleash a wave of destructive energy, crippling the human resistance. "We have to hold," Krell said, his voice resonating with a newfound authority. "But we can't hold them with brute force alone. We need to strike at the heart of their advance, disrupt their energy flow, turn their own weapons against them." "How?" Anya asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. She had seen the Chthon's energy shields, impenetrable barriers that deflected even the most powerful human weapons. Breaking through those shields was a task that seemed impossible. "We need to focus their own power," Krell explained, his mandibles clicking rapidly. "We need to create a field, a conduit, that will redirect their energy flow, overload their systems, weaken their defenses." Anya, her mind racing, understood the concept. It was a risky gamble, a strategy that relied on a delicate manipulation of energy fields. If they failed, the repercussions would be devastating, but it was their only hope. "Tora," Anya called out, her voice firm, "get the recon team to map the Chthon energy signature. We need to know how to target their flow." Tora, her slender appendages working tirelessly at a console, responded with a nod. Her eyes, luminous and filled with a quiet intelligence, shone with a renewed determination. "Krell," Anya continued, "we need to assemble a team. We need warriors who can handle the energy manipulation, engineers who can create the conduit, and strategists who can lead the assault." Krell, his eyes locked on the battlefield, knew exactly who to call. He would gather the bravest, the most skilled, the most loyal of his brethren. This was not just a battle for the city, it was a battle for their very future, a battle that would define the strength of the human Drex alliance. They would stand together, united, at the heart of the storm. The air hung heavy with the lingering scent of ozone and the metallic tang of battle. The sky, once a canvas of vibrant blue, was now streaked with a ghostly luminescence of deactivated energy shields. The city, once a testament to human ingenuity, now lay in ruins, a somber testament to the ferocity of the conflict. But amidst the devastation, a flicker of hope danced in the eyes of the survivors. Krell, his chitinous carapace marred by the scars of battle, stood amidst the rubble, his antennae twitching as he surveyed the scene. The Drex, once seen as timid and vulnerable, now stood shoulder to shoulder with the humans, their energy fields rippling with the power of their combined strength. Despite the overwhelming odds, they had prevailed. General Williams, his battle-worn face etched with weary yet resolute determination, approached Krell. "We did it," he said, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. "We won." Krell, his normally reserved demeanor softened by a hint of camaraderie, nodded. "Together," he replied, the word carrying the weight of their shared struggle. Anya, her eyes reflecting a mixture of relief and exhaustion, joined them. "The enemy has been driven back," she announced, her voice laced with a hint of disbelief. "They retreated to the void," General Williams finished, his gaze hardening. "They've retreated back to the void." The chilling realization settled over the battlefield, a heavy silence punctuated only by the groans of the wounded and the mournful wail of sirens. Although the immediate threat had been neutralized, the war was not over. The enemy, driven back but not defeated, could return. The silence was broken by the sound of a drone buzzing overhead, its cameras scanning the devastation, relaying the battlefield situation to the world. "We may have won this battle," Anya said, her voice now laced with grim determination. "But the war is far from over. We need to prepare for the next attack." Krell, his antennae twitching in agreement, turned to his companions. "We must learn from this conflict, forge a stronger alliance, and be ready for whatever comes next." The battlefield was a graveyard of broken dreams and shattered ambitions, yet it was also a crucible where unlikely alliances had been forged, friendships blossomed, and the very definition of bravery was redefined. This wasn't the end, but a new beginning, a testament to the resilience of two species who had learned the true meaning of unity. As the sun began its slow ascent, casting long shadows across the ravaged city, a single Drex engineer, Tora, stood amidst a pile of debris, her multifaceted eyes scanning the wreckage. She was not searching for survivors, nor for weapons, but for remnants of the fallen enemy technology. The Drex, with their unique ability to manipulate energy fields, were not only warriors but engineers, capable of understanding and adapting alien technologies for their own purposes. Tora's antennae twitched as she spotted a glimmer of light buried beneath a pile of rubble. She moved carefully, her chitinous carapace scraping against the debris, as she unearthed a small, metallic orb. The orb hummed faintly, emanating a pulsating energy field. Tora's multifaceted eyes widened in realization. This was not a weapon, but a communication device, a piece of the enemy's network, a potential key to their vulnerabilities. "Krell," she called, her voice clear and strong, carrying across the battlefield. "I have something." Krell, his antennae twitching in curiosity, approached her, his steps firm and purposeful. As he saw the metallic orb, a silent understanding passed between them. This was not just a piece of technology, it was a potential bridge to a deeper understanding of the enemy, a chance to learn their weaknesses and prepare for the next encounter. As the sun rose higher, casting a warm glow upon the battered city, a new chapter began. The echoes of the war resonated in the air, a reminder of the sacrifices made and the challenges ahead. But amidst the devastation, a seed of hope had been planted, a seed of unity that promised to blossom into a new era of cooperation and understanding. The Drex and the humans, once strangers, had become allies, proving that even in the darkest of times, the bonds of friendship and shared purpose could weave a path towards a brighter future.